Hey, what's going on? I'm the Mad Libertarian. This is Mad Dodge Productions and the Redeye stream. Number 260. What if? What if what, B? What if you had those pointy shoes that you like to throw at Jensen? I don't want to know anything about that. But what are we talking about tonight? Go ahead, girl.
What if I just stamped on your testicles with them? Would that be okay?
No, I'll pass. All right.
So is that you that makes those Pornhub videos?
That is Mad Dodge, yes.
Wait, what?
You realize you've given him delusions of grandeur now because he thinks he's going to be a porn star. You've left the poor deluded fool just sitting there wondering, are my genitals going to be seen by everyone as they get stepped on for hundreds of thousands of people? I'll be a star in Japan.
Well, hey,
no, he's actually
paid. No, I'm kidding.
He's actually thinking, well, at least this will fucking cease the abortion argument with me wife.
Yeah.
Okay, coppers. Tonight's show is What If. So, what if Benjamin Franklin, when he went to visit the king, actually didn't have a fight and a falling out, and they actually gayed out and decided to join us and created Pax Empirica. So this would be America and England moving forward as one country. A bit like, I actually made a flag for this. So let me share it.
Two things straight off the bat. They would have been in World War One and World War Two, the same time as what we were.
Yep. But we're going to start from the beginning. So the first part of the conversation, discussion, debate is going to be on what would happen to the two countries after they merge. Oh, yes.
Well, the first thing that would have happened, all right, is you probably would have saw a much quicker westward expansion and a more thorough extermination of the Native American population.
Not necessarily.
No, you would have seen that.
Well, no. First off, Jensen, you're gonna have to watch the chat. My computer's fucking up; it won't let me watch it. It says audio rendering error, restart. I'm not gonna restart because I'll kill our shit. So there's that. So watch the chat, man. Keep us informed. I'm gonna start at the beginning though. In real life, Benjamin Franklin walks in there and he gets dressed down for 2 hours straight, right? And he stands there with a stiff upper lip, and he doesn't say a word.
Nope.
And he turns around and leaves. When he leaves, he is a rebel at that point. We're saying that is where the start is, right?
Yep.
Basic.
At that point right there, in order for that to have changed, what would have to have happened is they, meaning Parliament at the time, would have had to come in there, listen to his redress, and then came back and said, okay, we'll vote on this. At which point they vote to give the colonists representation, all right, in Parliament at some point, or at least the promise to push for it in some kind of manner.
Okay.
They would have go ahead.
Okay, all I was going to say is that we are working on, at the beginning, things are going to work out. The silly business at the Parliament doesn't happen. We give them their time, we let him say his piece, and we actually agree to work together. That is the original premise of this entire conversation. It doesn't matter what people say about it wouldn't happen. It is happening here. Okay, please carry on.
So he would come back to the colonies with the basic promise of we are going to get representation, and the colonies would no longer vote to secede. Now there would still be some obviously things ironed out.
Wait, no. I'm not going to let that go. What did you say the colonies did again, MC? I just really want to hear that again.
I said the colonies would not vote to secede.
Secede. So, all right. Yeah. Secession. You know, that's a thing.
Yeah,
right.
it's called a rebellion.
I'll keep that in mind
when you quell a rebellion, that's the rule. I have never not called you guys rebels, have I?
Hey, that's fair. Let's keep with this. I had to hear that again. I just had to.
So at that point, they would come back. There would be no reason that Britain would try to prevent or even try to work with the Native American population. And this becomes a point. People don't realize this. After the United States actually had formed, Great Britain did everything it could to try and prevent any kind of westward expansion into the Indian territories, right, by the colonists. Without the United States, I mean, if you've just got it as British colonies, they would have no reason to try and stop it. In fact, they'd be encouraging it. So the westward expansion would have been much quicker, worse for the Native Americans, or Indians, however you want to talk about it. They wouldn't have gotten any kind of support from the British whatsoever. They wouldn't have gotten any kind of supplies. They wouldn't have gotten any kind of weaponry. Okay? They wouldn't have been given any kind of tools, all right, to try and fight against this. So there would be nothing to stop the colonists from immediately taking over. You would have seen, the expansion of the United States to the West Coast probably 30 years earlier.
Oh, well, let's talk about that then real quick. All right. So you see the expansion. And the UK government, the king, would divvy up said expansion. You would still have the plantation class in the South. That's not going to change. And with that, you're going to have an invasion of Mexico and Cuba and South America at that point, right?
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Well, actually, the whole thing with Britain and slaves and stuff like that ceased in the 1600s. That actually was outlawed. That's where you had pirates and all that kind of stuff, and they were actually getting punished for slavery and all this kind of stuff by the British Navy.
I think the British stopped it in, what was it, 1790?
Actually, we banned it in our own country, but we allowed it in the colonies very early on.
Well, no, and that's what we're talking about, right? We would still be colonies. We would be like Ireland, right? Like the British flag would look a lot different, is what we're saying.
I well, just what it looked like. I mean,
go. Yeah, well, just on that, so Australia was only a colony for 100 years. In 1901, we got basically our independence, but we were still a part of the Commonwealth. Basically, what happened there was the only thing the Queen could do was fire the Prime Minister, but then we had our own Prime Minister, our own Parliament, and all that kind of stuff. We could vote our own people in, and I'm pretty sure it was that point we ceased paying taxes to the Queen. That's also when we also got the Royal Australian Navy and the Army, remembering that aircraft work didn't exist at that point in time. So I'd suggest that it probably would have gone a similar fashion. You would have been a colony for a fair amount of time, maybe 100 years or so, but there would have been a point where, you would have got your own parliament and basically similar to what we did. And
I disagree with you in one regard, and that is the one thing that would definitely have been different was the fact that with the United States trading with Britain would have been far more extensive, especially early on. Okay.
And cotton, dude, cotton.
Well, there would have been that, but the British, the Slave Trade Act entered the books in 1807. Okay. So you would have seen Great Britain at some point say, okay, we're going to have to end the slave trade, and it would have been done over time. Okay, you probably.
Well, I don't think so. Actually, I want to correct you here. I think it would have been done the same way they did it in our timeline. They paid
Civil War.
They paid for the slaves and they freed them. That's how they would do it. It would be at once. Like, okay, what's the value of your plantation with your slave value? here's your money. The slaves are now free. They're left to either work for you or disperse. You know, that's what it is.
Well, it would have, if it happened in 1807, it would have changed the dynamic of the South completely then.
Yeah.
I don't think the workforce would have just walked off. They didn't even know how to read, dude.
I don't mean that. I don't disagree that for the most part, it would have transitioned into probably something very similar to what it transitions to after the Civil War. All right, with Reconstruction, where you got itinerant farmers and so forth. Right.
Yeah.
So you would probably had something going, performing along those lines. The one real big question would be, well, with the colonies acting that way, would industrialization taken off? I actually believe industrialization would have started expansion a lot quicker as well. All right, especially from the railroads. But you would not have had the colonies, all right, setting up their own. The rails would have been standardized much sooner. You'd have seen far more trade and traffic with Great Britain than what we had.
Well, just on that too, it's mainly because of leading up to World War One when they first started building dreadnoughts and all this kind of stuff. In comparison, the U.S. Navy wasn't all that great and all that big. If they had have stuck with the UK, they would have had a hell of a lot stronger navy and a lot larger ships at the onset of World War One.
Well, I think that we would have all been in one ship, to be honest. I mean, as far as the fleet, the fleet would have transitioned out of, in many ways, away from the British Isles and would have started to concentrate from the United States. There would have been huge freaking massive ships being built from the United States. It would have dominated things. And what's more is I agree with Mad Dodge when he was talking about something further. Once we went from sea to shining sea, right? Once Manifest Destiny to the other side of the continent would have taken place, the war with France would have brought us into conflict with Mexico, and we would have taken out Mexico.
Well, that's actually part of this whole what if. Because after all, Canada wouldn't be Canada because we would all be one union, for want of a better term, which means you guys would have actually been in control of the continent of America.
Yeah, but Jensen, real quick, would we be Englishmen? Because that's what we were fighting for at the beginning, dude. We just wanted to be Englishmen. That's all we wanted.
That's just the same.
We'd be British, not English. We'd have been
No, not even that. It's the same way as New Zealanders and New Zealanders, Aussies are Aussies, Fijians are Fijians. You guys would have been Americans.
Yeah, we'd have been Americans. There wouldn't have been Canadians, though. It would have been Americans. But we would have, I'm going to be real blunt with you, the Native American population, they would have been pushed into extinction. I'm not trying to be brutal. I'm trying to be totally honest. As soon as American expansion started toward the west, that much earlier on, the encounters with the Sioux Indians would have been bloody. All right, and utilizing the kind of mentality and tactics of the colonial period from the British being brought to the United States, there wouldn't have been any Indians.
Just on that, though, see, that never happened out here. We didn't try and exterminate the Abos or anything like that. And in fact, there's huge colonies of them still in existence.
That's because they were taking bets because you guys were prisoners to start with. They were taking bets on to see who would actually live. Lloyd's of London was having a great time. They'd come back with reports. Is the colony still there? Yeah. Okay, well, we'll pay up for this.
But yeah, no. Well, we had a Western expansion, and that we never wiped them out. We never had massive wars with them. We never had a battle of Wounded Knee or fucking Little Bighorn or anything like that.
Yeah, but different situation here in the United States.
However, in New Zealand, they did, and this is where the British learnt trench warfare off the Kiwis.
Yeah, but here's the thing: that we had the Native American horse culture that emerged, and there was no westward expansion without taking care of that. I'm sorry. Like, you know, it is what it is.
Well, what do you think we were doing? Jumping around on kangaroos? Yeah, we had horses.
No. He's talking about the wars that we had with the Native Americans. They'd have been. I'm telling you that it'd have been a lot bloodier. All right, and it would have happened a lot sooner.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. World War I breaks out. Fuck, dude. Germany is fucked from the get-go, right? I mean,
pretty much, because the force pool that they could have drawn from the Americas would have been so great that the Germans just could not keep up. And then possibly, too, you would have had colonial generals in charge of American forces and possibly wouldn't have used the old outdated fucking everybody one line out of the trench, walk towards the machine guns.
Here's the thing. This is something I kind of wanted to bring up, actually. I kind of jumped ahead of myself. All these great presidents, they would have been generals, right? Andrew Jackson would have been in the British military. George Washington, British military. Fast forward, you got Stonewall Jackson in the British military. I mean, think about that in the European front, dude. How does Britain not take out France immediately with America? Like, how does that not happen?
I still say at some point there that you would have been given your own autonomy and all this kind of stuff. So some of those people wouldn't actually be in the British military. They'd be in Commonwealth military, but they'd be still American military.
Perhaps you're right. However, I would say it would change. The fight with Napoleon would have gone a whole different manner.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that poor fucker.
Okay. You know, there wouldn't even have been an attempt at a frickin' French fleet.
Oh no,
there would have been a need for Trafalgar because he would have been outnumbered.
MC though, I want to cut you off at the pass here because there would not have been a French Revolution without the American Revolution. I'm laying that down right now. I don't believe there would have been. So you still have,
but there wouldn't have been a France. There wouldn't have been a King Louis XV at all. He may have taken.
Well, another
Louis
thing that
would have been the last king of France because the next war would have been with the entire United Front. And where are you going to go? Where are the French ships? There wouldn't be. The French would have been swept completely, off of the face of the earth. And then with the extra shipping, plus the extra manpower from the United States to land troops, are you kidding me? France would have been reduced to almost nothing.
So another thing you guys would have been involved in too would have been the Boer War. That would have given you experience enough to go into World War I with some fucking tactics and shit under your belt.
Well, it probably made us a lot more severe when it came to dealing with, native, quote unquote, native populations. I can imagine the United States military, all right, in certain actions on the African continent where the severity of some of that and how you have to fight that kind of stuff. Will they bring in people that were, quote unquote, the Indian fighters, right? With that kind of mentality?
Well, also that was one of the first wars where machine guns are actually used in combat, like belt-fed machine guns and stuff like that. And the British and the Europeans just didn't get the extremely simple premise that that is a new game. It's a completely different world now. Yeah, and maybe some of the Americans might have been paying attention during the Boer War and went, hey, these machine guns, if you walk up to them in a big long line, that's just fucking suicide. Let's think of something else.
You would have seen the probably the invention of hand grenades develop a lot quicker. You are correct.
Oh no, they had them then. Fucking Mills bombs.
Well, no. All right. So there's no War of 1812 then. That doesn't exist.
Nope.
So then you have a Mexican-American war a lot sooner. And you have the United States spreading. And, man, I'm telling you, this could be the British control of the entire Western Hemisphere. Like, that's where I'm going.
It would have led, at least it would have been a complete American homogeny or British and American homogeny all the way down into Latin America. All right. Now, whether or not we would have gone past and into Colombia and so forth, I'm not exactly sure, but you definitely would. Mexico would cease to exist. Let's be perfectly frank. Mexico would be gone. Central America would be gone. It would all be part of the United States. You know, it would all be part of the North Americans, the American colonies, right? Would be the Americans.
I reckon you would have gone as far as Panama.
Right.
And then maybe had some colonies, some small colonies further south.
Perhaps, but that's about it. Because to be honest, we probably had no reason to expand any further, or at that time to expand any further, because absorbing Mexico would be taking time.
Well, also too, part of the reason why Britain's not an empire anymore was because they were flat out just stretched too thin. They had too much territory.
Right, and that's true, but with the extra resources provided by the United States, it's not nearly as good.
That goes away, right? Like at that point, the empire can be the empire. You know, insert Star Wars joke here, but that's what I'm saying, man. I believe the British could own France and the entire Western Hemisphere. Is Germany really gonna start shit? Like, I don't think World War I would ever happen.
No, I can see World War I still happening.
No. The rest of Europe just didn't get along at all. So that would have happened, whether it would have been, you know, Germany, Prussia, and fucking Austria against whatever it was.
Let's be perfectly frank. How many freaking Englishmen really want to live in France?
Well, if you look at Move to the Chateau, quite a few of them. That's a British show, don't
they're
worry.
All idiots.
Yeah, I know. Just like those fucking French Canadians who like they're fucking French. That's how stupid they are.
Well, no. I'm looking at the chat on my cell phone here, and you're slacking, Jensen. Just saying. Aunt Jack says George Washington would have remained a plantation farmer. Yes, but he continued that. Excuse me. With Ben Franklin would have been a printer still. No. The moment we're changing is that moment. Benjamin Franklin walks in to talk to Parliament, and the King and the Parliament dress him down for 2 hours straight. And he just looks at him and doesn't say a goddamn word. That old man walked out a fucking rebel. We're changing that. They walk him in, and they give their own peace terms. So Ben Franklin would have still been Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin would have probably been the great leader. He would have been the great leader in the colony.
Yeah. I've got two more real quick things. Got two more real quick things I'll jump into the future for, like to our time. You would have had a United Airlines or a Pan Am Concorde, and you wouldn't have all your girly magazines at the moment going, "Oh, Meghan Markle, wish we had a queen again."
Yep. No, I agree with you. The thing is people need to understand that at the very beginning of this what if, I made it very clear that things are work out between Britain and America. There is no the Americans, the British. No, we are one. We are brothers. Okay. I need that very clear.
I think one thing that would have been different, all right, is in the United States. You got to understand how Americans are think differently, and in one regard, it would play out quite interesting because one of the things I think would have been majorly delayed is suffrage in the United States. I don't think that you would see women's suffrage happening in 1919. I mean, we war already by Britain.
Shit. No, real quick. Where's Pinoid at, man? No 19th, brother.
And this sounds kind of crazy, but you got to remember what the way that we would be looking at that is people would be looking at that and how it was taking place on the island, and they'd say, "No, I don't want any part of that," and they would be rooting it out. You got to understand there is when people talk about the prudish nature of Americans, we kind of earned that reputation to a degree. It wasn't completely that way, but we do have that aspect of ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a very moralistic aspect of the American.
No, MC, dude, I'm saying I blame Massachusetts for that. Just saying.
Well,
it isn't just Massachusetts. It ain't. They aren't called Southern Baptists because they came from Massachusetts, dude.
Well, I found your prudish nature,
dude. No. I give you the Pilgrims, and you smack me across the face with the Southern Baptists. All right, bro. I got you.
Yeah. I found your prudish nature coming from the fact that you say fuck in front of an American 15-year-old. Like, holy Christ, you said fuck. And it's like, yeah, well, we've already had Kevin Bloody Wilson and Rodney Roode by the time we're 14.
See? There's still a very, very prudish nature to Americans to a large extent. It would have been one of the things that would have been happening, which would have been it would have been interesting to see how it played out. Is you would have seen a lot of our evangelicals going back across the pond to take Christ back across and present it again to the English Isles.
That is another thing. Yes, you would be predominantly atheist now. The Bible Belt wouldn't be as big.
It could be even bigger, actually. It could go a number of different ways. All right, and it could have been if it became the dividing point where we said, okay, we'll become a commonwealth amicably, right? I think that the United States would have been even more religious than it is today.
Now, we're just taking us, for example. Like, we've still got all the different churches, all the different denominations and all this kind of stuff. And for me personally, fucking going to church on Christmas was just something that you did out of tradition. It wasn't that you were religious. It was just there.
Well, yeah, okay, I get it. You're a Christmas Catholic. I understand that process.
I'm not even that. I was made to do it when I was a kid.
Well, whatever. Like, growing up, that's what they called y'all, Christmas Catholics. You know what I'm saying? But no, dude. Thing is, though, the way Australia was colonized and the way America was are two different things, brother.
European colony.
Like, I'm not trying to be insulting. But you guys were the prisoners. We were the exiles. There is a slight difference.
No, you were prisoners first. European colony first. Like, I'm not being an asshole, but like, I know you guys don't really like to admit it, but yes, you guys were a penal colony first. Quinn?
I'm not disagreeing. I really ain't. This is why I wanted Farty here, so as he could give it from one of the other colonies.
I don't think that the American experience does not include itself as we were prisoners.
But you see, that's the thing that you guys don't also sort of don't get told. You think that we were just all prisoners first. No, my family came along just after the first fleet, so it was colonized about the same time. And my family went
real quick though. Farty. Yeah. MC, real quick. Farty, dude. I'm not trying to be a dick. I wasn't calling you dude. I'm related directly to Pretty Boy Floyd. All right, so you know it is what it is, man.
I'm not saying that you're being a dick or anything. It's just that there's a great misunderstanding about it. It's like, yes, there were criminals who were sent out of first, but there were also free citizens and free slaves and soldiers and all this kind of stuff. And
you know why you didn't fight the indigenous people like we did? Because they didn't grow into this horse culture that ran around scalping white people. It is what it is, right, MC?
No. We actually did. We had a few fucking taken colonists and stuff like that, and doing nasty things to them. And yes, we went out and we fucking killed that bloke, and but we didn't go out and just massacre the whole fucking tribe.
Yeah, but you didn't have the whole tribe trying to sit there and massacre other people either.
We fucking do now, though. Jesus Christ! If you run over an Abo kid in the street, you keep going because the rest of the fucking tribe will come out and fucking thump you to death. Like, no shit.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about back then. The Americans, first of all, the horse culture for the Native Americans did not arrive or come into existence because of Britain. It came into existence.
No, it was a Spanish. It was a Spanish.
Right. So it was more along those lines of why it developed and so forth. But the effect of it is that certain nomadic tribes were well placed, all right, to take advantage of that. Specifically, most specifically, the Sioux or the Lakota, which then began a major expansion. At the same time, you had expansion happening by the Americans. All right, at the same time, this is people don't realize this, but certain Indian tribes were wiped out by the Sioux long before the Americans had a chance to truly finish, go out there and do it themselves, because the Sioux themselves had wiped out most of the tribes that were more or less peaceful and agricultural, all right, along the Mississippi and Missouri River valleys, right? They had gone in there and exterminated them already, all right, because now they had a horse, they had mobile culture, and they could sit up there. And now we're no longer living in a kind of subsistence level that they were before. Now they could utilize this and take over power. So while that would be good, while that was
MC, I'm sitting back and I'm thinking about this. Wait a minute though. When it came to the Revolution and War of 1812, even the Canadian conquest, the British always worked with the natives, so maybe they wouldn't have wiped them out.
No, but they worked with them because they didn't want to put British troops here. It wasn't because they had any kind of feelings for the Native Americans. It was because, well, this is cheap for us from a manpower standpoint. It wasn't because they liked the Native Americans and were trying to work with them.
Well, that's where I'm saying that they wouldn't get wiped out, because the British, before the secession, they were working with them. Yeah,
but the reason they were working with them was to work against America. They weren't working with them because they were trying to preserve their culture, or they thought that their way of life was superior. Without the United States to be there to work with them, there's no reason for them to be worked with. They would have been exterminated.
Well, actually, it was more of a case of, like I said before, they were stretched too thin. It was a simple thing of manpower, like you mentioned before. It was like they don't have to put troops in. Yeah, let's work with them. Fuck it. That's what they did out here.
Well, right. So here becomes the issue. You don't have to put troops out there. The Americans would have let the American colonists just wipe them completely out. They would have said, "Well, let's send our troops."
Oh my God! Now, MC, I just had a frightening thought. Sherman and Jackson working together against the Sioux. Oh, those poor fuckers.
But having said all of that too, like, remember the British lost a war with the Maori in New Zealand, and they got bogged down in a huge war because the Maori had figured out trench warfare and the British hadn't. At that point in time, the British are sort of like, now, do we go and fuck with these cunts? What technology do they have? Can they fuck us over? How long is this going to take?
Well, no, I don't want to gloss over that. Could you imagine Stonewall Jackson and Sherman and Sheridan on the same side in the American West in the 1860s? Dude, like, they don't have a chance, do they, MC?
No, they don't. They'll be wiped out to the man.
Do they have rifles or muskets?
They won't have either. For the most part, they're going to be. They may get some muskets, but they won't be able to maintain them, and they won't be able to get more.
Oh shit! No, Robert E. Lee and the invasion of Mexico.
No, let's call that
1875 or 1868.
Go on with what we're going to say.
No, Sherman and Jackson's forces, would they have muskets or rifles?
No, they would have probably rifles.
It would be rifled muskets is the correct term.
No. Muskets are traditionally smoothbore. A rifle has rifling.
They rifled them in the Civil War, dude.
Yeah, no, they're called rifles.
No, they're not.
For all intents and purposes, they would have rifles. No. We'll just live from your standpoint. They would have rifles. And what's worse is there's not going to be anybody that would be supplying any kind of weaponry.
Well, am I being the dick historian here? And like, you can't just say there wasn't rifled muskets.
I know what you're
rifled.
I've tried to smooth this over. I don't understand what you're saying.
There are rifled muskets. They're like top musket type things with rifles. But if you want to just call it a musket is typically smooth.
We are now going to fight about rifled muskets for the next hour. Because
People?
Actually, I'm going to move you on a little bit, as you seem to be getting stuck in a loop on that one.
Just to bring it to people's attention, Ain't Jack has had an opinion. I'll let you guys deal with it because this is
read it
American
out, Jensen,
conversation.
for fuck's sakes.
Okay. Sherman and Jackson would have never become generals if US never got independence. Neither wanted to be military men. And Robert E. Lee would have been the only one who'd still been an officer in the military.
Okay, first off,
I disagree with that.
First off, Jackson didn't want to be in the military. Why was he teaching at the VMI? God damn it. Nah, dude. Now you can say this libertarian just bitch slapped your ass. Fuck you, dude.
Okay. I've got a question. So since with this, there's probably a chance that the Civil War never happened. Would there still been a General Lee car in the Dukes of Hazzard?
No, there would never been St. Andrew's cross on a Southern flag.
No Daisy Dukes. There would not be any Daisy Dukes anymore, or any of the rest of that. That all wouldn't have happened. That's all true.
Yeah, no, and I think race relations within the United States would be a lot better. But that's skipping way forward.
Possibly, it's hard to say how it would have fleshed out. I think that slavery in the United States would have ended sooner. All right, what the overall result would have been, as far as whether or not there would be.
Are you talking about deportation, the Lincoln Plan?
No, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about how race relations get played out in the United States would have to be different. I wouldn't necessarily say that they would be better. I wouldn't necessarily say.
Well, you know what? I'll say this about this whole thought experiment. You know, the one thing I love: Lincoln is never president. Like, he's some dickhead making log cabins, dude. Fuck you, buddy.
I know how the theme song will go now. They're just some well-to-do young lads.
Oh my god! No! Check this out. John Wilkes Booth would have been the biggest actor in the world, right? He already was when he killed Lincoln, but now he doesn't die. Now he's just traveling all of America and Europe. Like, what? How far have we expanded at this point? We're taking all of South America.
Well, at what point does
France?
Great Britain,
fuck you, France. You're ours.
At what point does Great Britain though become more insular in that it becomes, we become more insular together as a group though? Both nations would become far less interested. Let's be perfectly frank. We'd be far less interested in what was going on the European continent up until like World War I. Now you still would have had the kind of, there would have been some kind of action like Napoleon. I still believe Napoleon would have risen, all right, to some degree in some way, shape, or form, and we would have had to go in there and bitch stomp him. I really do believe that probably still would have taken place, regardless of whatnot. Go ahead.
Actually, in schools.
Real quick. Sorry, Farty. I know it's always you talking when I have to do that. I apologize. But Aunt Jack, that's some fighting words. Jackson would have remained just an instructor. No, dude. No, and fuck yourself. Like, God damn it, Aunt Jack. Like, he's my new favorite troll. I swear to God, he's just going at me. Like, he's trying to make me mad, and it's working.
He did say he wants people to notice you, Mad.
Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
All right, we'll come in.
Sorry, after you, Foggy.
Yeah, well, coming from this side of the fence, like, we only stopped doing the allegiance to the Queen and having the Queen's picture in schools and stuff like that not so long ago. And it used to be a thing that, like, Queen and country and all this kind of stuff, but we are Australian, we have our own traditions and all this kind of stuff. I'd say it'd be similar for you guys, where your education system and all that would still be bringing kids up to, respect the Commonwealth and the Queen and all this kind of stuff. And then going into the Boer War and going into World War I, it would have been a case of fucking, right, well, don't worry about, our feelings. The the motherland is fucking in trouble, so we got to go help them. That's the attitude that we kind of had. You know, people were signing up for the great adventure type dealio thing. So your attitude would be vastly different just from upbringing and all this if there was a Commonwealth influence still in America.
Oh, I would agree with that. I would agree with that tremendously. But what's worse or what's better in this regard is, all right, without the Civil War happening in the United States, the population expansion within the United States would have been a lot higher as well.
Mm.
All right, and so when it came to World War I, okay, you would have saw the full might of the United States industrialization at a higher level sooner.
Yeah.
Brought to bear.
Yeah, and that's another thing there too, because around about that time, Britain was trying to start outsourcing stuff, and even as far back then. So the industrialization, they would have utilized America with their mineral resources and their agricultural resources and industrial stuff.
One thing that could have been different, though. Hold on, let me finish this thought out. The one thing that could have been different, though, is Great Britain may not have been siding with France in that case. They may have actually been siding with the Germans.
Not necessarily. You know what?
No, wait. No, I like that. I like that angle. Because the way I'm thinking of it, dude, look at the influx of population that migrated to the United States in that time. They were German and they were Irish, right? So, yeah, there was a large sentiment in the United States to side with Germany. And if the United States isn't the United States and we're just America, a British Commonwealth, but we're gigantic, I think the Queen's going to notice. You know what I mean?
Remember, though, we've already ascertained that you've already taken France, so it is still the Germans against the Commonwealth.
Well, that's true. But if there's a France left there, we may be siding with. That's true. You do have a point.
If the war had gone differently with Germany, think about all the advancements in technology we would have lost as well.
Exactly. If World War I and especially World War II, because that was a bigger technological advance than what World War I was, because we were pre-technologically advanced industrial revolution back then. And you have a look at World War II, we went in with biplanes with still cloth skin over them. They didn't have fucking turbine propulsions, medical science, rocketry, fucking all sorts of stuff. We'd probably still be speaking to each other over landline telephones.
No, I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. The Germans actually would have been conquered. They would have been absorbed. All of that technology that they had would have flown. I guarantee you would have flown into the United States with a bunch of people, because the one thing that you saw in the United States during that time frame is inventors were considered heroes. This is why Edison is still considered a great hero. They would have brought in these inventors. There's all sorts of experimentations that would have been going on during that time frame that would not have ended the same way. And I honestly think that the war would have been quite a bit shorter. Okay, the Germans and their allies of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, that would have collapsed within. I don't think they would have lasted more than 2 years in a war.
Well,
I agree. Wouldn't we have lost a lot of medicine?
Yep. Well, mainly for World War II, because
of no, real quick. No, you're
fucking hell. Forward.
No, but B said medicine.
Yes.
Medical advancement happened during the Civil War. You're saying there is no Civil War. So, yeah, no, I don't think there would be antibiotics for quite a while later. I don't think any of this stuff would have happened. And a lot of military advancement wouldn't have happened either. You're looking at no ironclads. You're looking at the advancement of society, going slower, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's like with medical advancement and all that kind of stuff. If it wasn't for World War II and a certain Dr. Mengele and a certain Japanese unit, it's not a nice thing to say, but they were fucking doing a lot of fucking testing on human subjects and all this kind of stuff. And without that knowledge that we captured at the end of it, we wouldn't know half as much as what we do now.
And it's the same for the Germans on the Jews and the Gypsies and the gays. They did a lot of experimentation on them. That's why so much advancement. They wouldn't have been able to do that because we would have taken them over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, and here's the thing. Aunt Jack goes, Germany would have won World War II. There would be no World War II, dude. You would see Europe as British's fucking pissing ground. Cabby can go over there and take a piss. That's what Europe would be. If
there was a World War II, even with everything that's going on, if there was still a World War II and like it started off the same way with Blitzkrieg and all that, Poland and Hungary would have still been taken, the Sudetenland would have still been taken, but by the time they got to the Ardennes forest, I bet you $10 it would have been the Americans that went, yeah, you know what, fuck Belgium, we're going in and stopping them there. And Dunkirk would never have happened.
I believe Mad actually has a quote he likes to bring up at this point. Would you like to do it, Mad?
This far and no further. That's it. You're not crossing this line, motherfucker.
But even then, too, even if the Ardennes forest still did happen, then Dunkirk probably still wouldn't have happened because, as we keep ascertaining, there would have been a huge resource of manpower, and it wouldn't have been 70% of the British army sitting in France going, fuck, well, what do we do now?
No, dude.
After that, we would be looking at Russia.
Well, no. You know what I just thought of? Could you imagine a Christian Constantinople? All right, because that's what you're gonna have, dude.
Well, it used to be at one point.
Christian Constantinople.
It was at one point.
Yeah, it's no Istanbul, motherfucker. Like it's Constantinople, and we took it, and we would have. When you Aussies landed on that beach, you would have had Americans with you, and you would have took it. I'm telling you, you would have took it.
Well, not only that, they would have had the British. You got to remember the British fleet would include American ships.
Okay? Yeah, there would have been 4 times as many too. Yeah,
the firepower when it came to naval firepower, they would have been just immediately quashed. Now, which would have been interesting to see what would have happened with Japan, because I still think you would see the rise of Japan. I still think that Japan would come about probably in very similar circumstances to what actually happened. And they definitely would have been much more interested in becoming allies of the British than they ever would the Germans. All right. I'm not sure that alliance would have taken place the same way. All right.
Real quick though, Austria-Hungary would have still been in line with Germany. That is a close allegiance, dude. And like, there is no Austria-Hungary today. I get it, but they are still with Germany. You know what I'm saying?
But there wouldn't have been a communist Russia.
Yep, agree.
Oh my God, no Stalin, dude. No
Cold War either.
I want my transporter. I want to go back in the past. No Stalin. Fuck yeah, dude.
See, then that makes the purchase of Alaska being an interesting little thing too. Would that have happened if it was still the British?
We would have given it over. That's the whole point of this. It's like, I mean, Aunt Jack was saying what about the Japanese? Really, should I point out that Japan was basically part of Britain's holdings over there, whether they are willing to admit it or not? There would have been no China. We did own that mofo. Russia would have been the only thing that would have been a threat. And I mean this with no disrespect. In fact, the opposite. Actually, I mean this with complete respect to our American cousins. You lot would have seen a big old enemy on the horizon and you would have gone charging over there just purely to deal with a problem before it became.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, no, and that's the way Americans kind of are. Like, you guys like to make the joke we're always 2 years late. I get it, dude. I understand. It's because we are isolationists and we're like, you're bullshit in Belgium. Like, why is that my bullshit? You know what I'm saying? But in this scenario, we wouldn't be isolationist at all. And then you get, the Wild West. Yeah, dude, that'd be in France. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like I said, we would have taken Mexico with an expansionist mindset. We may have actually just we may have been doing more damage down in Latin America during World War One. I mean, we may have used that as an excuse to expand further south as well.
Well, with the whole Pacific theater in World War II, I reckon if Japan did ever, well, if they didn't side with us and decided to side with the Germans, as far as they would have got with Singapore, everyone would have stopped them there.
Oh, definitely. Well, first of all, with the start of World War II, I don't think that let's play this out a little bit. Where would Germany go? You got to remember, there is no France for them to kick their asses of, so they're not going to go to France to start with. And if they start a war with the Russians, we're not getting involved.
That's right. However,
we're sitting back watching, eating popcorn.
However, they did get to the gates of Moscow. They did get to the gates of Moscow, and they probably would have gone further.
I want to address the chat. Eldritch God is in there. What's up, brother? He's a contributor here on Mad Dodge Productions. Go check his channel out. The Eldritch God. Excuse me. Like, I'm sick still. But no, he is going off on all right, so what matters is why did the U.S. remain? The U.S. wouldn't remain. That's what we're saying. We wouldn't be the United States, all right? We would be America. And I mean America by North and South, brother. Like all of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think World War I would have turned into an American expansion in the South. The rest of Latin America probably would have been seized during that time frame.
I completely agree, and to be honest, I'm stunned you guys didn't actually do that. I'm not complaining. I'm just confused as to why you haven't.
It was the isolationist policy.
That and the fact, to be honest, is, and this is going to sound racist, and I don't mean it to sound this way, they don't speak English.
They would do after you lot had finished.
No, but wouldn't they speak English after we conquered?
Yeah. You know, with an expansionist mindset, yeah, they would be forced to speak English. It would be the last hurrah of Spain. Of what was left of Spain would be quickly stamped out.
Well, they'd probably speak two languages.
Yeah.
English and American?
Yeah. No.
Actually, you know what? No. Well, no, there's a different aspect here. If the United States expands into South America, you have more of a Catholic influence. Right now, in the current timeline, we've only had one Catholic president ever. True. I bet you our Prime Minister of America would be Catholic half the time. That's a big shift, dude.
There would be a shift along those lines. That is a good point.
Here's another thing you guys would have had too, is that you would have had a bloke called a Governor General. And I'm pretty sure if this timeline still played out and Trump was who he was and all this kind of stuff, the Governor General probably might have already gone to the Queen and said, "Can I sack him yet?" none of this bullshit impeachment crap. It'll be just one guy and his opinion.
Well, no, and there would be no Brexit because guess what? We don't at all.
There would be no need for a Brexit. That's a good point. It wouldn't be EU. All right. I mean, let's be perfectly frank. But then again, there might be the greater Germany. There might be Germany and the greater Germany, meaning the Russians that are now learning German. Okay.
Well, no, let's be real about that, MC. Expand upon this after I finish my statement. You see the rise of the British. You're going to see a parallel. That always happens. That would be Germany. Germany, dude, they had the industrial backing. They had the manpower. I mean, look at World War II, dude. They won 3/4 of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
that would be a big clash, dude.
That wouldn't, but they wouldn't have been clashing with Britain. There was no reason to clash with the British. We got to remember, without France there, with France being part of the Empirica, right? Is there any reason for Germany to go after them? You wouldn't even. I'm not even sure you would necessarily see the rise of Hitler himself in that incarnation. But they still, you got to remember, their big freaking win was the Russians, the ones that they hated the most, and being forced back to not take care of the Russians this time. The next time they went, where they were given carte blanche to do whatever they needed to with the Russians, I think they would have just rolled the Russians.
Well, that's right. Just real quick, there, like, if there was not a World War One, or World War One didn't go the same way it was, then Germany possibly wouldn't have been in the impoverished state to give Hitler his fucking the credence for what he basically put over his own people.
Agree.
I agree. I agree with that too.
Well, no, I don't know why Eldridge. I don't know why
Mad?
Eldridge God said this in the chat, but he said the only country to defeat America, Canada. Canada's not a real country, Eldridge. Like, we're homies, but damn it, bro. Go ahead.
Guys, the thing to remember is, especially during the 39 to 44 incident, Germany didn't want to go to war with Britain. They were constantly actually trying to get us to actually work with them. Right. They were the fatherland. We are the motherland. They are comfortable with this. This is not a problem for them. They want a unification, or sorry, they wanted a unification in that manner. Now, assuming that they had still wanted said unification, they would have joined Pax Imperica, and yeah, Europe would literally be a playground for us. The only time it starts to get a bit awkward is when you head towards the Middle East. You know, the Middle East that Britain, France, Germany, and Belgium owned. So the Middle East hasn't been doing really dick, let's be fair.
According to Angela Merkel, she still wants that unification, but it's on her side, not ours.
Jensen, dude, you brought up the Middle East, man. Would there be Israel right now? That's a real question. Would that happen? No, and I'll tell you why. Because Israel was basically formed by people who were evacuated out of the fucking what happened in Germany. And if World War II didn't happen, then the persecution of the Jews and shit wouldn't have happened either. So they would have been happily sitting in Europe going, "Oh, give us all your money, Goyim." Well, no, I believe it was World War One when Israel was created. But you know,
no, it was after that. It was
after World War II. But there was a Zionist movement. It would not have been. It would not have the massive influx that happens due to World War II wouldn't have happened though. Because there wouldn't have been the persecution where a lot of Jews, people forget this, but a lot of Jews fled the Germany early on when they started their persecutions. Not everybody stood around after Kristallnacht and said, maybe I'll just hold out here. A lot of them started fleeing and were fleeing that kind of stuff even before then. So Israel may or may not have come into existence, but I guarantee it wouldn't have come into existence the way that it did.
However, having said that, if it did still happen, like the Kristallnacht and all that kind of stuff, fuck's sake, George.
Well, no, I know it's always during your talk. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, but I want to point it out. During World War One, the deal was to set up the Middle East. There's a reason they rebelled against Istanbul and the Turkish, and that's how they set up Israel. I just wanted to make that clarified because I'm not an idiot, and I'm studying history. I had to do it, dude.
But like fucking what happened just after World War II is the British were trying to just dribble people into Israel as a colony kind of thing, but then they just decided to go and get ships themselves and then just flood the place. If World War II still did happen, and we're talking our timeline here, where America is still part of the British colony, and the Kristallnacht and all that kind of stuff still did happen, they would have probably more gone to America than the Middle East. You would have had a bigger influx of Jews going into America.
It would have been called Utah instead of Utah. There you go.
Well, I only say this because just leading up to World War II and the beginnings of it and all this, when the Jews are trying to get out, they were going to England, and there were the nobles and people with money and all this kind of stuff going, yeah, right, I'll bring your family over and all this, but you can be not so much slaves, but like maids and fucking all the butlers and shit like that, and you can work for us and we'll give you a job and all this kind of shit. And there were people that doing that. And if America was a part of that too, I'd say that there would have been a high population of Americans that would have done the same thing.
That's possibly true, although Jensen made a comment that would have been interesting, because I don't think you would have ever seen a rise of Mormonism in the United States.
Yep.
There wouldn't have been Utah the way Utah came into existence. All right. In fact, you probably would have what could have happened in the United States instead of a civil war is there could have been a series of small, very intense but very localized religious wars. Especially if you start dealing with a higher percentage of like MADDS was saying, which is accurate, right, of Catholics in the country. It could have been quite an interesting destabilization that took place as a result.
Well, look at the state of Louisiana, man, where I'm from. Like, there's a high proportion of Catholics in that state. That's like people call me racist. They're like, "Oh, you're in the Klan. You have a Confederate flag," and I just blink at them and go, "Dude, I'm Catholic. I'm on the hanging list. You dumb fucker. Like, do you not know? Like, read the racist handbook, bro. Like, read it."
But doesn't Louisiana want to be French too?
There was a French influence.
It's Louisiana, by the way. It's Louisiana. You know,
it's Lou's, all right.
No.
Oh, damn. All right. I see how it's gonna be today. All right, MC, it's on.
Right. Before this happens, let's actually attempt to move this slightly further on. Now, World War II has either not happened or was not, by any stretch of the imagination, a world war. And to put it bluntly, Pax Empirica would have landed on its ass and squashed it flat. Now, we've already worked out that, let's be fair, Africa would have belonged to the Europeans without question. Does anybody wish to disagree?
Not
you
really.
know what? That's interesting. That's the one continent we haven't touched upon, even though there is, South Africa, cough, cough. I mean, we might want to touch upon that. But we're going into the second hour. B, show that hangout link. Go ahead. We're opening it up now.
No.
Well, that's you, fuck
women. You see that shit? Like, no, this bitch sounds like my wife. No, fuck you. I say, show the link, woman.
Well, Jensen does have a point up until a point where, like, you got places like Nigeria and stuff, which were French colonies, which would now be America. But Germany did have a lot. Germany did have a lot of territory in Africa, in the African continent. So had World War II and World War I never happened, or been crushed completely right off the bat, they may still have their territories, and it would have been a half Anglo, half America continent.
Yeah, I think I think you're right, or at some. It depends. See, the key would be how the fights would happen with Germany. I think World War I would probably been very similar, would have taken place, but the results would have been so dramatically different. I think Germany probably would have retained its colonies, all right, and they then would become the power balance against the Russians, and then the World War II would have been a Russian-German conflict in a regional sense.
I really don't think there would be a World War II. There would be no punitive sentencing upon the Germans. There would be no Weimar Republic. That would not created the conflict and the social chaos that was the rise of Hitler. That would not have happened. Like, it wouldn't have. I'm telling you.
Hello, Mr. Stoneley. Welcome to the craziness that is What If.
Yeah, you guys are fucked.
Not yet. I've still got a drinking game after this. I'm not fucked yet.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I listen to you once in a while. You guys are fucked.
Well, we like you too, buddy.
Hey, don't drag me into your fucking swampy thingy there.
Well, that's the problem, mate. As a Canadian, you would already be part of this issue. At the end of the day, my original plan actually would have been that America has completely taken the entire bloody continent. Canada only came about because of the American incident. And no, I'm not trying to be nasty to anybody here. It's
I like that, the American incident. And I'm over here in America holding up the Declaration of Independence. Just saying.
Yeah, well, you can put that down because it's now called Pax Imperica. We now own the planet. Okay.
Yeah, the Yank Constitution would just be an incident report.
Yeah.
Well, you know, well that's a good thought there. Like, could we take over the entire world in this scenario?
Well,
it seems like slowly we are as we progress.
There is no U.S. Constitution. There is no Bill of Rights. I mean, things are going to be quite a bit different.
Oh, you guys wouldn't have guns now. Oh.
I think we still would have had guns.
Yeah, I know.
I thought about that for a second. I was like, no, we still would have had guns because guns are.
Well, first off, I don't think anybody wants to take over the world. Why would you want to do that?
Why? Because America.
What are you gonna do? No, it's kind of like you said today, MC. Something about they were testing Trump to see whether he was mentally capable or whatever you call it. And listen, nobody in their right mind would want to be the president of the United States. So of course he's not in his right mind. Nobody in their right mind would want to be.
Yeah, of course. Why would you want us? We don't exist.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. That's actually why I wanted you here, Farty, as one of the other colonies that coming from the primary country. Now, this is not being said with any form of ego. This is only for the story, okay? You guys, let's be fair. The Australians and New Zealanders were basically outstanding in what they did in the wars that they got involved in. I'm not putting anything against them whatsoever. But imagine the British Empire, or now as we are calling it at this point, Pax Imperica. We have the British and what they were capable of doing with their piss poor tiny little country. And then we've got the backing of a country that has how much resources?
Shit tons. And we don't even use all
yeah. Well, no, man. Nobody wants to fuck with us, right? We are America.
Don't remember.
No, but look at Canada.
Dude, I was talking.
Look at Canada.
Don't forget, Canada is a part of the.
I want to read the chat.
Canada.
So you're destroying my country, taking away my right to vote. No. You're destroying my country, taking away my right to vote.
You can vote, Eddie.
And possibly taking away my ability to own firearms. Also that you can take over the world, Jensen?
Are you going to vote?
I'm not even...
Listen, are you going to vote the way we want you to vote?
Oh, shut up, Stonely. I never vote the way you want me to vote.
Okay, woman. I was trying to read the chat. Hammer Spud said something funny. Mandatory longbow training 3 days a week would replace the Second Amendment. So now you can go, woman. Go ahead. I just wanted to read that out.
Well, just real quick, Sharadi, yes, women can vote out here. We just don't listen to it. I'm only kidding.
Do you listen anyway?
Half the time.
Exactly my point.
Well, no. I'm the type of guy like that billboard that says, men are more stubborn than the average being. In other words, more stubborn than women. And then I'm the dude going going.
What was that, R2?
Yeah, fuck you.
3PO, there's stormtroopers on the detention level? Oh my god. It's a trap. Oh shit.
Someone unmute him.
No, he's gone.
He'll come back. He's trying
He dropped out.
He's trying to reset his audio.
Is he the only one
you heard his feelings. He's sad now. He's sad now. You heard his feelings.
Mr. Quinn, speak.
I just found out that I'd been muted, so I had been talking.
Oh, yeah, you've been traveling away. So, did you tell us anything interesting?
Aren't you brilliant?
So
basically, you're trying to take over the world?
No, you're thinking too small.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay,
So
yeah,
this to
exactly. Me. Yeah, okay. So if America and the British were all together and all this kind of stuff, the space race would have been British, and well, the British would own the moon. Even though there's no ownership for the moon or anything like that, but they're the only ones that have walked on it.
Well, there's plenty of colonists that need to be sent there.
Why
either of your names, Jensen?
Do we want the moon? Why do we want the moon?
Lawyers and Muslims, send them to the moon.
Actually, he's asked why we want the moon. I can actually answer that. Because the moon would be used as the first stop-off point before we actually went out into the rest of our solar system and eventually the wider galaxy. That's why the moon. And that's actually the only reason.
That's right. It's easier to launch a rocket from actually space than it is to launch it from Earth.
Holy shit, he returns.
Oh shit! Were we off air during that?
No. Figure out a way to get to the moon. That would be cool.
Yeah, and this is the thing. You see, I know that this is a what if, and therefore it's going to work out because, well, simply put, the story writers are saying it does. I understand the fact that it would never have happened, but
so it's D&D without the dice.
It's a mind experiment, hun.
Well,
right.
that on that just there,
exactly.
Real quick, just real quick on that just there. Like, if World War II never happened, then Werner von Braun would have just still been an amateur rocketry monkey in the backyard, and fucking he wouldn't have had the funding from the Nazi Party and all that kind of stuff. Therefore, like the space race and all that kind of shit would have been far more further down the track. We wouldn't have actually gone to the moon if World War II never happened.
No, I think we probably would have ended up going to the moon quicker.
No, we wouldn't have even had nuclear weapons, the race for nuclear weapons, and the Cold War and the space race and all that shit.
The thing is, you'd have.
I don't think we went. I don't think they went to the.
You don't think we went to the moon?
But you're Canadian. You got an excuse.
I don't think they did. I think they faked it just to fool the Russians. And no, I don't think they went to the moon.
Yeah, that was a documentary. What was it called? Star Trek.
Actually, I kind of agree.
Well, real quick.
I'm
gonna let you.
They had a 16K computer, and you can't get to that. They're gonna tell me
on your moon.
Roboting.
I just don't.
Experiment here.
But I don't think they did.
Okay.
This is like flicking through channels.
I think they faked it.
Am I roboting?
Yes.
Yes, badly.
Or
worse than an orgasming cyborg.
Yeah, you sound like R2D.
My
R2D2, fucking C3PO.
Right. I understand that a lot of people believe that things would have been at a lower grade of tech. And to be honest, it is quite feasible. You may well be right. Funnily enough, I agree with MC. One of the problems that we've got on this planet is although war enhances our technology dramatically, and it does, As much as people might sit there and try and say war is bad, no, war is actually something humanity is amazingly good at. It's probably the only thing we're good at. But the point is that the world of today would be a lot more, well, quite simply, it would be one planet. It would literally have been the Terran Empire, a damn sight quicker than the shitstorm that we've got now, that who knows, may get to the Terran Empire.
So we should fight more. Let's fight. You want to fight? You guys? Huh?
Well, there is another benefit to it. It keeps the population down.
Let's all fight. Let's fucking argue and fight and kick each other's ass and fucking No,
well, the amount of cunts that are starving on the planet right now, let the mouse defeat would be better.
It's like the movie Idiocracy. You ever see that?
Yeah.
See,
no, we're going there.
I think there would be a lot more fights, a lot more wars, so to speak.
Explain, please.
Just because of your socialist regime.
Let's do it. Let's fight more. Yeah, because that seems to be the best thing for us, is fighting. So let's fight more.
Now,
good idea.
While I understand you're actually trolling with that, funnily enough, there would have been wars, but now there would be a damn sight less of the wars, because quite simply, there would be only one superpower. And yes, America, you are part of it. Don't think I'm trying to say you're not.
Well, that's another thing there too. Vietnam would have gone a hell of a lot different if they didn't have to, like, going along the lines of the French don't exist anymore. The French wouldn't have been in Indochina. It would probably most likely been taken over by fucking Uke America. And that war probably would have been a lot different, considering that you would have had French, Uke America, the UK, and Australia, and the rest of the Commonwealth involved in that as well.
Yeah.
Ho Chi Minh wouldn't have had his thing.
I think it would be. It would be totally euphoria if all of the world was like Canada. It would be.
Please no.
What I meant was there would be a lot more revolutions, so to speak, trying to become their own.
Well, not if we were like Canadians.
If the world
Canadians don't fight like that there.
Yeah, you're too stoned to fight.
Oh, we don't know.
I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, all right, you got to get us real worked up before we get all fucking worked up, you know. And then you can't stop. Once you get us all worked up, you can't get us stopped.
Be interesting to see if Pol Pot would have still existed.
Try to test. Can you get me now, or
does
Jensen need to log in under the brand?
Robot.
We can still kind of hear you, but you're roboting still.
It's basically, I think it's as good as it's going to get, Mad. So just run with it, dude.
Or not.
I'm gonna run with it. I gotta go home. You guys you fight nice, okay, and don't get hurt.
All right, the last nicely before we do.
Yep.
So yeah, with that, like, okay, with Southeast Asia, for example, you got Pol Pot in Cambodia. Would Cambodia still be Cambodia, or would it be Kampuchea still as a part of us? And having said that as well, seeing as how Idi Amin was sucking up to Britain, would he still be a thing?
And you've lost the only two people who seems to know more about this than I do.
Sharadi? Anything? 3PO?
I wasn't listening, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so basically we're talking about basically America and Britain. The British Commonwealth has taken over most of the world. Southeast Asia would the Vietnam War wouldn't have been the same way as well, because there would have been the Commonwealth involved with, well, the rest of the Commonwealth involved with the Americans, because Australia and New Zealand were involved in that as well. And also too, since Idi Amin was sucking up to the British, would he have been a dictator as well?
Go, Jensen, because Sharati and I don't know what he's talking about.
Actually, he has a valid point there. I mean, this is one of the whole points of this what if. So many things would have changed. People that, that we're naming now wouldn't necessarily apply, purely because, simply put, said people's countries wouldn't necessarily end up the way things are. I mean, yeah, I understand that, yes, there will be rebels, there will be troublemakers, etc. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is a large unified force, and the important word is the unified part of it, means that we would literally absolutely stamp at anyone who gave us shit. Okay? So would there have been a Pol Pot? Yes, possibly. Would it have been anything like it was in our timeline? Hell's no, because, well, Pol Pot, now, if I remember right, originally that land was held by the French. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was called Kampuchea.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I was up to date with it. Now, France died some point in the 1700s. Okay, there was no French controlling that area.
Actually, Vietnam, Vietnam was still a French colony up until the mid 1950s, and then they lost that at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, and that's when the Americans got involved.
Okay, no, thank you for the info.
And fun fact, they were using Japanese as police in the local area.
Okay, cool.
So right. What would be the biggest threat to Pax America now? Or Pax Imperica?
Islam.
Yeah, agreed. This is why I made the point of most of the countries that a lot of people think of as superpowers wouldn't be superpowers, whereas the East would still be a problem. Okay, and that's as polite a way as I can put it.
Is he bugging out for anyone else?
He is. He's got the curse of mad.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, well, take for instance Albania, for example. If you talk to my Serbian war criminal mate, Albania is part of Yugoslavia and all this kind of stuff, and same with Bosnia and Bosnia-Herzegovina and stuff like that. And they're full of Muslims. They're not Arab Muslims. They're European white Muslims, and parts of former Yugoslavia don't seem to think they should exist, and that's the reason why you had the First Balkans War and the war in Albania and so forth and so forth. And then you have a look at, say, the PKK and the Kurds. Yep. The Kurds are a race of people who aren't really Muslim. I don't exactly know what religion you could call them, to give you an example of what they are, but they are trying to establish their own state similar to like Israel in the Middle East. And this is part of the reasons why there has been conflicts for the last 20 years there, and persecution of the Kurds and all this. And when Trump pulls the Americans out of Syria, the Turkish are going to go in and try and have their way with the Kurds, and I'd like to see them do that because they've been helping Assad, and Assad owes them a bit, and I think Assad's going to keep his word, and so are the Russians. So that's a fun thing. But in our timeline, that wouldn't exist, except for maybe the Kurds might try and establish their own thing.
Would we not take out the Middle East, considering we wouldn't have the Geneva Convention holding us back? And we wouldn't have to adhere to the just war?
That's an interesting thing, but you've got to remember too, the Geneva Convention was something that was heavily British influenced. You know, the whole treatment of prisoners and fairness in war and not using inhumane weapons and stuff like that. That was heavily British influenced. So there may still be something similar, not exactly the same thing, but genocide's off the table.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have to adhere to the just war. We could just go full out on them.
Well, we could to an extent. We just will. See, that's another thing there too. Since in our timeline, World War I might not have been a thing, things like phosgene and Blue Cross and mustard gas and all that kind of stuff might not have been used. And when we've taken over the majority of the world, except for the Islamic countries, we might very well turn to that.
Well, we've used it before chemical warfare.
Yeah, and biological.
Yep.
And we could even go in and fucking start sterilizing people for all we know.
I would like it noted there is a reason I actually called it Pax Empirica, and I've already referenced the Terran Empire. I'm not making any claim that we're a bunch of good guys. I'm merely pointing out a point in history that all it really would have needed was one simple change, and this whole planet would be fascinatingly. That's what this is.
I mean, there's only one area that we haven't actually touched upon, and that is the entertainment industry.
Would possibly be very British orientated, long-winded, typical British old school movies. You'd have a lot of Broadway type dealio plays and stuff like that. Not so much Hollywoodized.
Maybe, but we do tend to sort of merge with other cultures and other countries when it comes to entertainment.
Well, that's true too. But you got to remember that Hollywood was an entity in itself, where it was allowed to go and perpetuate its own specific brand of thing. And if America was influenced by the British for a great deal of time, this is back where I was saying before, where the allegiance to the Queen and the upbringing and all this kind of stuff would have been heavily swayed towards the British. I'd say that if indeed Hollywood did ever exist, it would have been a very BBC type organisation.
There wouldn't have been any competition for the Beeb.
No.
God, I hate the BBC so much.
Yeah, they're a bunch of cunts. Out here, there's half the shit they can't we can't get out here in the shops, but they still want to fucking block us from seeing. And like QI, for example, like the BBC Worldwide has blocked you from doing this. Well, how's about you release it on DVD so I can fucking watch it then? No, we don't want to do that, but we still don't want you to see it for free. Fuck you. I'm pirating it. Fuck you.
Good man. Good man. But the net result of this, the whole what if, is the fact that the Earth as we know it right now would be nothing like it is. I'm not saying there wouldn't be pollution. Hell, it's quite feasible there may well be more pollution. But I truly believe we would actually be further along on the going into space thing. So,
well, just on the pollution thing, like coming from here, like everyone thinks, oh, Australia's idyllic and all this kind of stuff. It's a paradise and shit. I came into London, I couldn't fucking believe the amount I could see because the air is so clean. I was in the middle of London and I could smell the fucking curry restaurant down the fucking road. I can smell cunts cooking roast beef and shit. And I'm just like, holy fuck, all I can smell is food. Oh shit! And that curry, I've got a problem with curry because, when you see an Indian restaurant, you go traditional Indian cuisine. Yeah, I know how traditional traditional is, Drippy Nipple fucking gets out of his mud hut and he does a big fucking yawn and goes, "Oh, I need to take a poop." And he goes down to the fucking river, shits in the river, and then goes back, gets his pot and grabs some water out of that river whilst fucking 50,000 people up the fucking river who fucking been shitting it. And then he makes his dinner. They're like, "Holy Jesus, no, thanks. I don't want to eat that." But fucking the smell of the food, I'm like, shit, I might even try a curry while I'm here. The only thing I was pissed about was that the only place I could find that had haggis, and I'm a Scotsman, by the way, too, so like I love me haggis. Fucking was some upmarket fucking joint was like 40 quid for a fucking haggis. Like, fuck that for a joke.
I understand completely, sir. But the whole point is we would have had a fascinatingly different world just with basically a half a dozen people not being dickheads to one dude that actually tried to sort shit out. Now, have you noticed how basically this world has ended up being a better place?
Maybe.
Now, granted,
maybe,
yes, I accept that. And I am prefacing it with, in my opinion, but I actually think that Earth as a planet would be a lot further along with human development, and we would actually have been doing a damn sight better thing. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm British and it's the British in charge. No, I'm actually saying this as the whole world under one ruling thing would actually make the planet a better place.
I know where you're going with that, and because we are a multicultural society out here, and the amount of times when you give someone a good idea, here, this is what you should do, and you get this accent or, "Oh, no, I am not allowed to do that. Oh, no, I don't think that I think you're trying to scam me, or I am a very smart person, and I think no, shithead, fucking just do as I say." No. I hate to pick on the curry munchers, but it's usually that fucking accent.
Did you go to Brick Lane then when you came to London?
Hey?
Did you go to Brick Lane when you came to London?
Might have done. I jumped in a taxi one afternoon and I just went, "Do the touristy thing." And he goes, "What do you mean by touristy thing?" I was like, Big Ben, Belfast, like the HMAS Belfast, fucking Tower of London, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and Princess Gate. And he's like, "Princess Gate? What the fuck do you want to go there for?" I was like, "Iranian embassy." Oh.
Fair point.
So with MC's thing about how women wouldn't have had the rights in the Pax Empirica, does that mean there'd been no Spice Girls?
No. They would have still had the right because, this is exactly what Jensen wanted me on. Okay, you can see from us what would have may very well have happened. Like, we wouldn't have genocided the Indians. We wouldn't have kept the women out of voting for so long. There would have been a certain amount of time where America was an actual colony, and then they would have got some form of autonomy where they got their own political elements and all this kind of stuff, and they'd be self-governed like what we are. They'd have their own. The American Navy, not the United States Navy, would have been a thing, and that would have been a very powerful thing. Would have been the American Air Force, not the United States Air Force. There would have been the American Army, not the United States Army. Don't know about the Marines, though. They possibly would have been a thing, but they wouldn't be, what you'd know of them nowadays.
Let's be honest, mate.
Commandos.
Yeah, let's be honest, okay? America can say what it likes about its Marines. The Royal Marine Commandos know how this shit's done, and I understand Australia has got its own version, so I'm pretty confident you will agree with me there.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Perfectly.
All right, about goddamn time. First off, don't put down the Marines, you dumb bastard. Do you want to die? That's how you die. But second, man, all right, what'd I miss? I've been gone for like 20 minutes.
No, what I was saying about the Marines is, like, they wouldn't be the thing that they are today. They wouldn't be the independent Like, because like you got your Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Marines are based off what the British have as Marines, which are basically soldiers on a ship. Whereas the Marines are an entity in themselves where they've got their own Air Force, their own Navy, their own fighting land force and all that kind of stuff. They possibly wouldn't be that. They'd possibly be still soldiers on ships and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fair. And hey, and hello to CSG. Welcome to the weirdness.
Yes, I thought that would be very interesting to come to the weirdness and have a chat with the weird people talking.
Before I let you carry on, Mad, do you want me to change back to my icon, or do you want me to stay on this one in case?
Stay. If you can't hear that buzzing, I think my mic isn't working. I don't know what's going on with my PC, dude, but yeah.
We can hear you, but we can't hear the buzzing.
Sorry, you sound absolutely fine, and I think it might have been Shirati because she had a horrible snowstorm that may have been fucking with the connection.
Anyway,
no, common sense guy. America and England never separate. We conquer the world, don't we? Like that's how this plays out.
Easy. Easy, yeah, no, definitely. I definitely would say that if England and America never separated, then yeah, I would have thought that we would have been able to take over the world together quite easily as well.
Okay, question that I asked before, common sense guy and Dodge. Pol Pot. Okay, Kampuchea never becomes Cambodia, and Pol Pot. Okay, what about though?
That still doesn't mean that. Go on, Karen.
Yeah, Idi Amin, because he was sucking up to the British. The British basically trained him, put him in power, and basically left him there. What do you reckon that in our new timeline, where the Yanks are involved?
But it still would be the case that if the British wanted him there, then the British and the Yanks would have wanted him involved. It still would have been under British control, wouldn't it? Even if you're annexed by your own identity or your own form of country, it still would have been controlled by the British and the Yanks. So they still would have controlled the world.
Yeah. However, you still do have...
Why would... Well, no, real quick. Why would you see a separation of the British Empire? Because that kind of happened after World War II, and it was kind of us Yanks, as you want to call us, telling you, you know, knock it off, bitches. You wouldn't have that, right? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. The Yanks, Seppos, didn't fucking say anything about Pol Pot while he was in. However, we still do have the power of popular opinion and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the reason why the British pulled out of Iraq. Popular opinion didn't like that war, so they ended up pulling out. So if
I've got a quick question for you, though, to go on to this point. A quick question.
It's not what's a Seppo.
No, nothing about that. No, it was more of a case of you already put the hypothetical of putting in these radical regimes that were either being backed or maybe having secret backing from different countries. What would happen as the fact of being in this timeline that UK and America wouldn't need these coups to be able to go into different places? They just would have gone into them.
Yep.
That's basically the answer to the question I was asking. That brings on another interesting point. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just real quick though, as I was saying, the popular opinion, if the Americans were still involved and they heard it like, oh, the motherland has got this cunt and this, hang on, we don't like this cunt. But then there too, as you said, we wouldn't have the fucker in there in the first place. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no. And I can't really go against that one. I'm pretty sure that that's what I would have thought would happen. I would have thought that the bravado of the British would have gone, the sneakiness of them would have gone, because they would have had the backup of the actual Yanks or the Americans. So they just would have just gone straight in their barrels first, or muskets first.
Yeah. CSG, if you don't mind, what's your opinion on the tech level we would have got to? Because we kind of got a bit questionable as to how good our rocket science and things was, and to be honest, both points were perfectly valid. After all, MC said that, simply put, the Empire would have gone in and taken the scientists and they'd have been working for us, which is actually a valid point.
We're we're also working under the assumption that World War I and World War II either were non-existent or non-events.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. That good. Thank you for actually pointing that bit out. I did forget to do that. So, what's your opinion? Where we would be?
My question, real quick, to you guys and Common Sense Guy, because he just jumped in. All right, so Pax America, whatever, the United States and the British, or the Americans and the British, we hold Constantinople. Do we go any further, or do we just say that's good? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did bring this up. The only threat really left in the world is Islam, so we probably would.
Well, let's look at it from a logical point of view. If there isn't a world war, or world wars in general, and the British and the Americans were taking over different points of the European Union, so to speak, or European countries, why would they not extend it all the way into their natural enemies from one end of the continent to the next, which would be towards China and the end of Russia? So why would they not go and take it over?
But just remember too, no World War One, no T. Lawrence, no banding together of the Muslim tribes.
That depends, though. That depends, because if the tribes themselves have something bigger to fight, then more and more people would join in opposition towards the bigger enemy or bigger threat, depending on your perception of what the enemies would be. So the more that the English and the Americans would take over, the more that the rest of the people that are left would band together because they would see no other option, which then in turn forms another form of First World War, which then in turn would increase the technology levels by the wars.
Which would be the Middle East.
Sure. Middle East, Asia, a couple of others, the top part of Russia.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. This is why I've been saying, as much as World War II helped out humanity through tech and medical, and yes, I do understand that putting it that way cuts out a lot of the humanity, but I'm actually trying to do this as data, not as oh my fifis. Okay, I understand that there are going to be a ridiculously large amount of people still dead. Let's be fair, a ridiculous amount of people died anyway. Okay, I am looking at this actually bringing a form of peace to this world. Yes, it probably would be peace under the, for want of a better, jackboot of authority. I'm not denying this. What I'm saying is how far ahead do you, in your opinion, obviously, because this is just a throwing it out there idea, how far ahead do you actually think we would be as humanity? Because I actually think we'd actually be a damn sight further along than we are currently.
It depends. It depends on what you mean further along. Do you mean further along in the aspect of technology and medical advances, or do
Pretty
you
much,
mean?
yeah.
Then in that case, no, I don't agree. If you meant into the idea of actually being sociologically advanced, as in being more integrated and possibly having the illusion of more freedom and more integration, then yeah, I could probably see your point. But humanity in itself strives harder when it has an oppressor. The only times in that instance in your theory that humanity would actually progress as technology or medically advancing would be in the case of when America and the UK were taking over the rest of the world. That would be the only time that it would be progressive, and it would be from both sides. But as soon as they have taken over, it would be like it is now and won't be progressing too much. It will be stagnated.
Yeah, there's an old statement that goes, war breeds necessity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I just wanted your opinion on it. After all, you've come on, so, let's hear your opinion on it. Now, as next question is going to sound like a pretty stupid one, so I'm fully expecting to get muted for this, but do you think it would be a good thing?
Oh, it depends on your idea of morals. It depends on your idea of moral good.
No.
Here's my thing though. Good thing. We talked real quick. Like I had to leave.
I hadn't
He's not
actually
doing it to
finished
me.
my question. I hadn't actually finished my point. That was all. What I want, CSG, is your opinion, not sociological. I would like you to tell me if you would actually be willing to live in that society. After
I'll let
you've
Mad go
answered.
first. I'll let Mad go first, and then I'll answer.
Okay.
Well, no, because what I wanted to bring up is we've only talked about military. We've only talked about conquest. Look at political. I mean, seriously, no Declaration of Independence, no Constitution, no free speech. You're looking at a V for Vendetta world.
Not necessarily. Look at us.
Well, I would actually go to a step slightly different. If you're going to go to the aspects of going to the points of almost separating, as the original timeline would be, then surely there would have been concessions put into place where America would be something like a colony, for instance, rather than it being completely separate or its own entity, which means that they would be granted all of the rights that they would have wanted themselves, which I'm sure after fighting and so on and so forth would have been wanting to put them down anyway. So I'm sure the Constitution would have been put down into place anyway. It still has the aspect of still being the same country. It just means that they didn't separate and they still remained almost proper allies rather than separating and being by themselves.
Yeah, and that's where I come from with what's happened out here. Yes, we were a colony for 100 years, and then in 1901 we were given our autonomy. Eventually, America would have gone the same way.
Well, I think that America would have gone a lot quicker. I think that if you were going to go down the Civil War aspect of what would have been the timeline going up to it, except for the separation, there would have been concessions given. America would have been able to win that war. The English would have seen that, especially with other aspects that were going into play. They would have made a deal. In general, if we're going to go down that sort of timeline, there would be no way that the English would beat the Americans. So if we were going to go down this as a hypothetical, then we have to use the hypothetical of going, well, they would have had to have made a deal for it to continue.
Well, there's no war of revolution which dictates that the Civil War most likely would never have happened, and they basically stayed a colony of the United Kingdom.
Well, that's what my point was. I would have thought that even going all the way through that, I think that the bit that would be separated would be the end of the Civil War, where the English were basically kicked out. I think the hypothetical would be that the English weren't kicked out because they were able to come to a concession where America were basically able to be their own country and be completely almost independent, but just a colony in name. That would be the only way that they would be able to continue.
So what you're talking about is the olive branch petition,
yes,
because we put that out there.
Yeah.
Hang on. The context. I think the context you're missing, common sense, guy, is that Benjamin Franklin goes into the king and fucking walks out. But instead of the Americans seceding as a result of that, that's the point that everything changes. The British go, okay, yeah, we see your point, and we'll negotiate with you. So the War of Independence never happened. Most likely the Civil War never happened. That kind of stuff.
I suppose you could go down that route, but the only problem is with that point is you'd have to go and be a little bit more in depth of what aspects that the English would have given up on that aspect then, because the main reason for the war was taxation without representation, and was the fact of a country from another way telling the Americans what to do. If England wasn't prepared to give America its own way of doing things, then it would have gone to a civil war anyway.
So okay. What if that at that point, same thing happened to like with 1901 with us? The British went, right, yeah, okay, you're still a part of the colony, the Commonwealth, but you're your own thing. You've got your own parliament now, and you can run things your own way, but you still got to suck the Queen's dick, or the King's dick in that case.
Well, that really does depend on the aspect of what. From my understanding of the Civil War, and obviously I'm not as up on it as what you and MADDS are, but from my understanding of the Civil War, the main reason was bar the taxation was the case of they didn't want jolly old England telling America what to do. They wanted to be their own country. So
All right.
I don't think that it would have come to that point.
Just a quick correction there. That's the War of Independence was the one that they separated from Britain. The Civil War was over the slaves and shit.
Yeah, fuck the slaves.
Well, no, dude. I was enjoying him calling that war the Civil War. I was just smiling. I'm eating a cup of noodles, and I was just smiling.
Well, it was technically a civil war.
Just so people who know what they're talking about have some context. Don't mean to be. I don't know what I'm talking about. A dick. No, I don't mean to be a dick, man. I'm just like, just so everyone knows what we're talking about.
It's fine. I don't even know what I'm talking about. No, I call it a civil war because at that point in time, that's what it would have been.
Yes, it was.
Well, yeah, that is true. That's not what it was called.
No, I know it was the War of Independence, but I was using it. It doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
But
we now know what you're talking about.
That's fine.
No, we're getting down to about 10 minutes left, guys. All right, so Jensen, dude, do you think this would have been a good scenario overall? And yeah, we would own the world, but wouldn't that back off technology because you don't have to face off anybody else?
Okay, right. Do I think it would have been a good thing? In all fairness, something would have gone wrong. How do I know? Humanity is involved. No matter how good something is, humanity can find a way to screw things up. Okay, I'd like that bit put straight in right at the beginning. Now, the thing with the tech, I understand the whole point that war breeds necessity, necessity breeds technology. Yes, it does. But equally, we've not really been at war for basically around 50 to 80 years. And before anyone jumps down my throat, not when in comparison to the wars we are talking about when it comes to like World War I, World War II, and things like that. Okay, so would we have the tech? I actually still think we would have, because especially with America having a expansionist way of doing things, I truly believe that we would have actually already have had moon-based Tycho, and we would have been working on our way, if not already succeeding, with the Martian bases. Because, simply put, if you've got an outlooking country that has the sort of power that the Pax Empirica would have had, we would have gone into the stars. And I actually feel that at this point, in this alternate universe, I think we would have actually started our, and yes, I know B's going to go mental, but our trek into the stars. Opinions?
No.
I would have to disagree with you on that. I mean, I do understand your premise. I do understand it. It can go one of two ways. But the thing is with, say, for instances, like using Star Trek as a base, with the idea of the generation, or Starfleet, would be the case of using the socialistic ideologies and mechanisms to be able to create the world that's around them. Even if the UK and the US were able to take over the whole of the world, there would still be forms of trading. The way that the Starfleet Command or whatever is operated is, in my opinion, completely operated fictionally. It would not ever work that way. There would be no way of being able to take away trade from people and taking it away by saying that you can't have anything, or even having the idea of credits or whatever. It still wouldn't produce expansion. It still wouldn't make, if you got an abundance of something and you don't have to worry about anything, why are you going to work? We have to use the arguments that we would use against the idea of socialism in itself. Why would you work if you don't have to? Why would you create if you don't have to? And that's just my argument on that one. I don't think that we would create, because as the Australian guy says, it is true. Without necessity, we won't make anything because we're lazy as humanity. Though I will say one thing. I do honestly think that with the idea of going through, say, the UK and the US were able to take over the world, it would be a case there will be rebellions. the UK and the US would not be able to hold over the whole of the world. There will be rebellions in small pockets. There will be excursions and small wars breaking out. They may not necessarily go anywhere. They may not be able to do anything, but there will be forms of annexing. There will be forms of making treaties and things like that, as people do with terrorists nowadays. It would happen that way. Because as you said, Jensen, people will not be oppressed. They will fight back.
Yes.
Well, no, and I was going to wait to go last, but what you just said is exactly my sentiment. All right. I think it'd be great if America owned the world. You know what I'm saying? But what type of world would it be? Is this V for Vendetta? Is this 1984? No, I don't want that. I'm still a libertarian. And I say, Viva la Revolution. And I'll pass it on to Farty or B. One of you two.
Go B.
Okay, so my problem with this scenario is because World War I and World War II would go differently. There'd be like no austerity, and therefore the hemline would not go up, and there would be no miniskirts. So that isn't a world I want to live in.
It's not a world I want to live in either.
Yeah, and depends I'm thinking about B in a miniskirt. God damn it, B.
It just depends on the Sheila who's wearing the miniskirt too.
That's fair. But also, without all these wars, there would be no liberation from them either. Like, obviously, after the Vietnam War, America had the great love fest that happened after that. You would miss out on so much joy and freedom that comes from being liberated from these oppressors. So I think
my God, no, B, we didn't even talk about rock and roll. Like, would rock and roll have ever been created? Like, damn, we could go all night on this subject. You know what I mean? Like,
I've got a quick question, if I may pose it to everyone.
Yeah.
The question that I would pose to everyone, if I can, is what B basically just said. But it's not a case of the liberation. But think how in ourselves that we are now falling into ideas of identity politics. Now, the reason why I get into this as a segment is not because I want to go into the identity politics and fucking all that shit, but it's a case of because that would be UK and American all over the world, do we not think that people would find differences in ideologies, and those ideologies would be the things that would actually break up the unions?
Yeah, actually, we touched upon that earlier, Common Sense Guy. I know you weren't around, but we talked about the United States invading South America. You know what happens then? Then you have a gigantic Catholic population, and that will shift dimensions drastically. I mean, I could do a whole what if video on just that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm backing you up here, dude. Yeah, I'm backing you up. You're totally correct, man.
No, I think that's really interesting, especially if you consider the demographics. As you quite rightly said, say, for instance, you do take over a country that's solely Catholic or any other religion or any other demographic that you want to choose, then that demographic in an idea of a parliamentary system, if it had majority, would take over that system.
Yeah, look at South Africa. Prime example, right?
Exactly.
Well, as we have come to very close.
Hang on a tick.
Oh, no. I'm not finishing it. What I'm actually saying is, if at a later point people would like to continue kind of, or in fact, this specific scenario, I would be more than happy to take part in it. That's all I wanted to say there. Please carry on.
Farty, all yours.
Well, I'm still looking at this as a military type sort of thing. We did need World War II because of the advances that came from World War II. We got jet engines. If Werner von Braun was still working in his backyard and the Nazis weren't a thing, he would never have got funded. We wouldn't have had the V2. We wouldn't have had the Saturn V. Things like that. We wouldn't have satellites at the moment. We wouldn't be speaking to each other like we are. There's the medical side of things. All the differences in trauma, fucking medical things from warfare. yes, there are a hell of a lot of bad things that came about from World War II, but yeah, this is where I go as far as to say that Hitler wasn't that bad, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have done all of this stuff. We wouldn't have had all of this stuff. You wouldn't have had Concorde. You wouldn't have had fucking F-111s. We wouldn't be using stealth fighters right now. Radar wouldn't be a thing. Fucking, there's a shit ton of things that came about from World War II, and it's all of these things that we were talking about before that, if they did happen, would not have had, you know, World War II produce. So I'm fine with the way that we are now, and I prefer it be this way. I really wouldn't want a totalitarian United Kingdom Queen ruled Commonwealth being the entire globe, because we simply wouldn't have had these things. We would be a dumber race because of it, quite simply, because we wouldn't have had all these things. And the internet, for example, you can look up anything on the internet. Where back in the day, you had to, like back when I was going through school, we had to worry about what the Encyclopedia Britannica said, and they were saying some really outlandish things back then, which we now know are false. And that was the thing that you looked at. Oh, Encyclopedia Britannica. That's the gold standard as far as knowledge goes. Now
it's Google.
Exactly. And we can...
God help us.
If you do look at the right place, you can find the right answers and stuff like that. We are looking at going to Mars now. We're looking at landing on Mars. We definitely would be nowhere near that had it not been for World War II. That's, you know, I reckon the way things have gone, that's the way it should have. If we'd gone the other way, we probably wouldn't be nowhere near there, especially with religion as well. I like that fucking Family Guy episode where they were doing the dimension jump thing. And they go into this one dimension, and there's like fucking hover cars and monorails, and it's all advanced. And fucking Stewie goes, "Oh, what's this dimension?" And Brian goes, "Well, this is the dimension where they got rid of fucking religion 500 years ago, and look at what they got now."
Mm.
You know. However, I will say this: had America been still in the Commonwealth and all this kind of stuff, you would have gone through a lot of the same changes that Australia did. You would have got your independence and all this kind of stuff. I don't think you would have massacred the Indians, but also too, you probably would be a predominantly atheist country as well.
I think that's a good thing.
Well, no, and sorry, Farty. I'm sure that was a good speech. I missed it all because I was on the phone with my wife. So,
well, listen. Well, now you're going to have to listen to your own stream then, aren't you?
I don't do that. I don't go back and listen to my own shit.
Well, just fast forward to the end. You'll find it.
All right, but here's the thing, guys. I think overall, the political society would have been reduced greatly by no birth of the United States. I really believe that. Freedom of speech, goodbye. Look at you guys right now. You don't need the EU to do that shit to you right now. Without America, there would be no free speech. And
just real quick, just on that, we do have more freedom of speech out here than what you guys do. So you would have hell of a lot more. No worries.
I'm not saying a word. I'll let you two punch it out.
I believe political freedom would be reduced. But you want to talk about military conflict and loss of life? It won't be as much, man. It really won't. The beginning would have been bad. Like, I feel bad for the Mexicans and Native Americans, and it is what it is. But yeah, we would own the world, and at that point, you can go anywhere. You know what I mean? I believe what Jensen said. Moon base, bitch. And I'm gonna drop the mic right there. Moon base.
I kind of have to disagree with you on that, and I'm kind of with Varty on this. It is a case of it wouldn't matter how far that you get around the world, even if you were to be able to conquer it. you would have people that would form political parties that would end up taking over that way. And if that didn't work, look at how when people are occupied in different countries, how they will fight back. Look at how the Middle East stopped Russia and the US from taking over in different places at different times. Now, that's not me trying to say that they're better than you. It's just trying to say that look at the occupation that would happen. It wouldn't ever take over the world because people would always fight back.
No, I hear you. Afghanistan, right? That's what you're talking about. Could you imagine the United States and all of Europe and all of South America invading Afghanistan? You think we're gonna leave anybody popping up out of the goddamn sand? It's
not. But that's not what I'm saying, man. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that individual country is going to do that. That every country that you take over will have pockets of people that will want to fight the people that they deem the oppressors. They will form terrorist organizations or groups all over the world.
Well, no, and to be fair, my political part of my last words, that was for real, dude, because I would still be a libertarian. Right now, I would be yelling against the king. You know what I'm saying? And I get it, you guys have a queen, but we're talking an alternate timeline, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So I would be railing against the king. And what are they going to do? Black bag me? Send me to Syria? They could, right? At that point. And that's a whole different dynamic that we could do a whole different show on. You know what I mean?
Well, you could say black man without being called a racist.
Well, yeah. But that's still not my point, though, Matt. My point is that, let's put it this way. Say, for instance, that America took over the United Kingdom. No matter how long America occupied the United Kingdom, people would always fight back. They may not win, but they would always fight back. Same as if you took over Australia, people would always fight back. And wherever you go all over the world, people will always fight back.
He's right. I completely agree with. This is why I made the point at the end of, do you think it would be better? See, I'm not saying it would be necessarily a good thing for this world, but it'd be interesting to see where we would get to. And that's what the show was.
Well, you know what I like about this whole scenario is the United States is the modern day Rome. Add the United Kingdom's empire to that, dude. Who's gonna step up to us? Like, where you at? You want to raise a hand? We'll cut it off. You know what I'm saying?
Just on that, if the UK did control the entire world, we wouldn't have fuckwits coming out to Australia going, Sharia law, Sharia law. What the fuck's Sharia law? It's our law, motherfucker. And we wouldn't be fucking sucking up to it either.
And the thing is, though, it would be totalitarian, which is bad. But then again, you wouldn't have rape gangs, would you? They'll roll in with the fucking SWAT, motherfuckers from Germany, because we already conquered Germany. So, you know,
it depends. Fascism in itself wouldn't be negated just to Germany. It would be a case of people would think that their countries are a lot better, that they're great and everything else of that. And if there's doctrine that's against it, it would be burnt. But the reason why I say this is because people that are in control in a totalitarian state or countries will always burn the doctrine that is against them, that will say that they are bad people. And that means that technology will not advance, which is what Fatih was saying before. Because
you know what, guys? I think we're going to go a little bit later on this one because I have another question for you British blokes here. And I think we're going to elaborate on this for a little bit. Would the Queen still wield power like King fucking George did? All right. Remember, we started this with Benjamin Franklin in Parliament. That's where we started this scenario. I believe the king would still wield the power because he wouldn't have lost it in the Revolutionary War, and we would have taken Napoleon out. And you would have a real monarchy still. And let that sink in, people. You would have a real.
And I'll tell you why. Because we're still part of the Commonwealth. The Queen has no powers. She doesn't even have powers in England either.
I don't think
it's all down to the Parliament.
She does.
She does. She does to an extent. She does. No.
Just stop for a second. She has all of the powers that she ever had, that any other monarch ever had. It's just the fact that they will not use them. She still has them, but will not use them.
Well, that's partly that, but like there's still the parliament and all that kind of stuff that does the runnings of the country, and they're the ones that are actually going to be telling you what to do.
No, wait. Tomorrow or right now, the Queen can walk out and be like, Parliament of Australia, you're dissolved. Parliament here in Greater Britain, you're dissolved. Guess what, bitch? I'm back.
Yeah, she can do that if she wants to. She can take over any part of the land and call it her own as well at any point in time.
However, as I was saying before, you know, with what's going on with us, you know, it's not that bad. She hasn't done it. Like the only person in Australia that can sack the Prime Minister is the Governor General, and he has to go to the Queen to do so. That's basically the only power that she still has here.
I'm saying you wouldn't have that dimension if King George didn't lose. You get what I'm saying? I'm talking political here. The king and queen would still wield the fucking power, and they would use it. Why?
Let's use your hypothesis for a second. Let's bring it to a logical conclusion, right?
Yeah.
You have the UK in itself that would have the Roundheads trying to attack Parliament. If the UK, as King George winning and everything else like that, do you not think that they would have called for assistance to stop the Roundheads from winning?
Yes.
Yeah, Jensen, we didn't dig into that. Jensen, I want you to have the floor. Nobody cutting him off. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, actually, we would have called on our allies, and assuming at the time America was our ally, there would not have been a new model army, or at least there would have been for about 20 minutes until the reinforcements arrived, and the royalists look round at Cromwell and his lot and go, "And you was saying what?"
And suddenly, the silver tongue.
Could you imagine, dude? I don't remember what year that was, but I'm just saying, could you imagine Jackson and Robert E. Lee up in England tearing shit up? I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's what would happen, though, isn't it? They would use all of the resources that they possibly could to make sure that they keep power, and they would have more forces already in England to stop that from happening, because that's the capital of its seat, as it was in the Empire days.
Yeah, so Jensen, would we be less free with this scenario? Because I love this scenario, dude. Like, we conquer the world, it sounds like. I don't have any motherfucker saying we wouldn't conquer the world. Like, all it takes is us to unify, and the world's ours, brother. But is that good? Is that a good thing?
Who wants to go first?
Okay, treason isn't a thing anymore. You can talk shit about the Queen as much as you want. They do it on the BBC all the time. But hey, would you?
Fighty, quick point. Yeah. The point was, though, if it's been the hypothetical, would that law have been changed? Because remember, she would have had full control of everything. Why would they change the laws?
Possibly not, but to keep your populace in you know, from fucking uprising and all that kind of stuff, you just look at the Jubilee. She threw a rock concert with all the biggest fucking names that there was for the last 40 fucking years. I mean, like, yeah, well, you can't really complain.
Farty, let me put it this way. Our real timeline right now in Italy, well, I guess it was a couple of years ago. A chick made fun of the Pope. Guess what? She got arrested and she's banned from singing in Italy. Yep. Not in Vatican City, in Italy. Yeah. That's something you would have across the world. Well, make fun of the Queen and get fucked.
Here in the Commonwealth, we got a name for people who didn't like her calling out the Pope, and they're called stupid fucking wogs.
Yeah, you know what? Kiss my fucking Catholic ass, you Protestant whore. Fuck you.
I'm an atheist. Fuck you.
Well, no, I'm agnostic, but I was raised Catholic. I had to do it.
Okay. Can I answer his question now?
Go ahead.
Ed, honestly, mate, you are correct. We probably would not have some of the freedoms that we have now. And just before the libertarian in you goes pop, also remember that we would have different freedoms. Now, can we sit down and work them out? Possibly. Are we going to do it tonight? Like hell we are. Okay. But your question was, would we be free? Is anybody truly free? Is my counter to your question.
While there are laws, no.
Well, no. In America, we are free compared to you as what? A subject? You're a subject to the queen, right?
Not technically.
No.
What do you mean not? Well, actually, technically, Jensen is because he served. Like, he is a subject to the queen. He was in the queen's army, right?
Her Majesty's army.
Sorry, I apologize. I apologize. My bad.
Technically, so was I.
Yep.
Well, then you're a subject. Me?
No.
I'm not a subject, bro. Like, I can own a gun. Like, you can't even have a spork.
However, it is a volunteer army, though.
And the other thing to remember, Mad, you're sitting there saying that you're not a subject. Yes, you are, because you are a subject to the US government.
Yeah, they bring. You go.
That's it. I did.
Oh, okay.
No, I was actually going to back him up and go, yeah, I just paid taxes a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
They bring back conscription tomorrow, man. You're fucked. Unless you're over 30-something years old.
I'm 34. I'm right on the list, like right there. Like 35 is the cutoff. They might draft my ass, dude. They might throw me fucking.
Just a couple of more years, mate. Just a couple of more months should be fine.
They bring back conscription tomorrow, and you burn your draft card. You can go to jail. That's similar.
Oh,
you know?
That's one thing. Can you imagine no Canada to run to during Vietnam? Just saying.
Well, that's just real quick on the conscription thing. Like, we had conscription up until like 1970 or something like that, when we lowered the age of voting to 18 and lowered the drinking age to 18 and all this kind of stuff. And since then, right, we got a welfare state, we got criminals on the rise, we got people fucking going, nah, fuck this, we're going to sit on a dole forever because they haven't been through the army and they didn't get taught a work ethic or how to fucking lead people or anything like that. Like, I reckon getting rid of conscription was the worst fucking thing we ever did.
Well, I would disagree with you, but I don't want to get into that argument. Hey, Jensen, what's going on in the chat, dude? What's popping off? They got any questions? What's going on?
To be honest, Ain't Jack is currently pretty much talking about the USSR and China, and Furry and Finley is joining in.
Of course, Ain't Jack is. He's North Korean. I kidding.
No, he's South Korean. He's South Korean.
I know.
No. It's so good. I'm not going to disavow that because he calls me a dumbass libertarian every day. So
you are a dumbass libertarian, though.
Hey, fuck you. Fuck you too, buddy. Like, God damn it.
No, he has to be South Korean or else he wouldn't be talking to us.
There is that. There is that.
Well, can you link a ham radio up to the internet?
They use mobiles.
They're high tech.
Oh, yeah.
They make them, remember?
Yeah. So basically, the point being, Mad, with your original premise of question is, would we be free? No. That's because no one is actually truly free if you really get right down to it. Would we have other freedoms? Yes. Would we have less freedoms than we have now? Quite possibly. But the point is, the world would have peace. That is the whole point of the Pax, part of Pax Imperica.
But would it? But would it have peace? Can humanity ever truly have a peace?
You know my opinion on that.
Exactly, so why argue for it?
Because it's purely a mind experiment. Hell, next time we might actually try a mind experiment, pick another major world event and go with what if.
Well, no, I got that idea. I'm thinking, what if the Roman Empire never split apart? And they kept growing, dude. Like, could you imagine that?
Here's a good one. What if 9/11 didn't happen because the US Air Force shot 4 planes down on the guise of, they might have been terrorists?
That would be interesting as well. But on this note, now we're talking about our next episode. So I say we're winding down. What's up? This has been the Redeye stream number 260. What if, motherfucker?
Hang on. Just real quick. Yeah. Don't forget, boys and girls, join us on shit. What are they called?
Exiled Opinions, motherfucker.
Exiled Opinions. We're going to be doing the Rotten Tomatoes drinking game on Beavis and Butthead, the movie.
Oh, no, dude. No. If you guys fuck with that Rob Zombie scene, I'm going to rage. All right? I'm just letting you know. No. You don't fuck with that. That was gold.
I am the great Cornholio. I need TP for my bunghole. Beavis, your mom the whore. No, she's not. She's a slut. Horse get paid.
Well, that's right. And that's why we got to wrap it up, because they're going to jump on here in what, an hour? Shit, man.
Yeah.
We got to go. Yeah, we got to go. These motherfuckers are coming right back at you at the top of the hour. Hit them up. Exile Opinions. Show them some love. Don't just watch them on my channel. We'll do that, by the way. I like that. But go hit them up and subscribe, because they do more than one show a week, guys. They're doing
the best promo I've ever heard.
Hit them up. We're fucking out of here. Peace. And shut the fuck up, Common Sense guy. No, kidding.